Today is Monday, July 1st. What to know about 3 new Supreme Court decisions that could have big impacts, and what American voters are saying about whether President Biden should be replaced in the race for the White House. Plus, what to know about the first major hurricane of the season. Expert tips for travel this week, as it's expected to be record-setting busy at airports and on the road. And highlights from the BET Awards, including Usher honored and Will Smith's return. Those stories and more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. We start today with not one, but 3 highly anticipated Supreme Court decisions that could have wide-reaching impacts. First up, in a 6-3 vote, justices ruled federal prosecutors went too far and overstepped when they charged someone who rioted at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. And that ruling could impact hundreds of others who were charged in that riot, and might even affect the case against former President Trump. The ruling specifically was about one type of charge, obstructing an official proceeding. The DOJ argued rioters had violated this law by trying to obstruct the certification of the 2020 election. But justices said prosecutors actually need to show a defendant interfered with specific things like documents and records for the proceeding. Experts say this will likely make it more difficult to prosecute some January 6 rioters and might lead to some charges dropped altogether. The ruling could also at least weaken the case against Trump, though the special counsel who charged Trump for his role on January 6 has said the former president's conduct could be a crime even under a more narrow reading of the law. Keep in mind, the High Court still has not yet ruled on a separate case about Trump's claims of immunity, but that decision is expected as soon as today, so stay tuned. Another major decision could have a huge impact across industries. The Supreme Court's conservative majority overturned the so-called Chevron deference. So what is that? It's a 40-year-old precedent that essentially made it easier for the federal government to regulate things like the environment, healthcare, worker protection, food and drug safety, telecommunications, the financial sector, and more. The 1984 ruling had said federal agencies should be allowed to fill in the details when laws aren't exactly clear, since judges are not experts in various fields. Well, no more. In a 6-3 vote, the majority of justices said Friday, it's the courts, not government officials, that should decide if an agency is acting within its authority. The Biden administration's top Supreme Court lawyer argued this decision could be a, quote, unwarranted shock to the legal system. Though the justices did write in the decision that their ruling should not call into question all the prior cases that relied on the Chevron ruling decades ago, since there are many. But some legal experts aren't so sure. And there is one more Supreme Court ruling to know about that was yet another 6-3 decision split along ideological lines. Justices upheld one Oregon city's ban on homeless people sleeping outdoors. The local rule punishes people sleeping and camping in public places like sidewalks and city parks. The High Court ruled it's not cruel and unusual punishment and therefore does not violate the Constitution. The majority opinion said it's not about homelessness, it's about outdoor camping rules. Critics, though, including the more liberal justices, argue sleep is a biological necessity, not a crime. Either way, this decision is likely to impact how cities across the country might respond to the homelessness crisis. Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon is supposed to report to prison today. The Supreme Court rejected his last-minute bid to delay his 4-month sentence. Remember, Bannon was given jail time for ignoring subpoenas from the House committee that investigated the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He was convicted on 2 counts of contempt of Congress back in 2022. His prison time was put on hold for a while he appealed, but his time is now up. Bannon told ABC News he still has no regrets about defying the congressional subpoenas. He called himself a political prisoner. Another former Trump advisor, Pete Navarro, received the same sentence on the same charges. He's finishing up his time, though, since he reported to prison back in March. Last week's presidential debate has now sparked a new debate within the Democratic Party. It's over whether President Biden should step aside and allow someone else to take on former President Trump for the White House. A new Morning Consult poll found most voters, 60%, now say Biden should definitely or probably be replaced as the Democratic candidate. And a new CBS News YouGov survey found close to half of Democratic voters think Biden should be replaced. So how would that even happen? President Biden would have to step aside voluntarily. Experts agree it's not something he could be forced to do since he already got nearly all of the delegates from the primary process. Of course, this is all just talk right now. The day after the debate, Biden looked to calm fears and pushback, telling a crowd in North Carolina that while he's not as good at debating as he used to be, he still knows how to get things done. And some top Democratic leaders and donors told the party to stick with Biden, despite other voices in the Democratic Party publicly calling for a change. Over the weekend, the AP reports Biden's family gathered at Camp David and also urged him to stay in the race, believing he is capable and able to come back from what some just call one bad night. It's also worth noting that the same Morning Consult poll I mentioned earlier found that when voters were asked who they would choose if they had to pick between Biden and Trump, the results were pretty much the same as before the debate, where the candidates are neck and neck. The first named hurricane of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season is expected to make landfall in the Windward Islands this morning as an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm. And Hurricane Beryl is already rewriting hurricane history as it tears through the Caribbean. For starters, it transformed from a tropical depression to a major hurricane in less than 2 days. And that's only happened 6 other times in recorded history. The storm is also the earliest Category 4 Atlantic hurricane ever observed. And Hurricane Beryl formed farther east in the Atlantic Ocean than any other hurricane in history, breaking a record that stood since 1933. Hurricane Beryl's exact path is unpredictable, but most models have it heading toward Jamaica as a hurricane, and from there it's expected to weaken. Several models show it approaching eastern Mexico as a less violent storm, while the most northerly model route takes the storm, or at least remnants of the storm, toward Texas and Louisiana. So, to be continued. All right, we have much more news for you still coming up, but first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We've all heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy, right? But with social media, it can be hard not to compare when everyone's posting the highlights of their lives. Whether it's on social media or in real life, if you've ever found yourself wishing your life looked like someone else's, therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can actually start living your best life. In fact, whatever mindset shift I need in any given moment, therapy has given me the strategies to first recognize what's actually going on and then respond to it in the best way for that moment. If you're thinking of starting therapy, BetterHelp is a great place to start. It's online, so it's convenient and flexible, and it makes it really simple to switch therapists if you need, so you can find the best match for you, no awkward conversations required, and no additional charge. So stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. Get ready, the 2024 summer travel season might be the busiest ever. And already both TSA and AAA are predicting record travel for the 4th of July holiday. TSA says its agents expect to screen more than 32 million passengers between June 28th and July 8th, and that's up almost 5.5% compared to last year's holiday. And AAA expects close to 71 million Americans to travel 50 miles or more from home, pointing to summer vacations underway and the flexibility of more remote work. It also helps that gas prices are down since last year. Experts say today is actually the best day to hit the road to avoid major traffic, but that Tuesday night or before noon on Wednesday, or actually on the 4th, could also help you beat some traffic. The worst traffic delays for return travelers are expected on Sunday, July 7th. As for air travelers, record travel can also mean some extra flight delays. Summer weather like extreme heat and thunderstorms might also cause delays in certain cities. Experts recommend flying early in the morning or late at night to avoid any mechanical issues that are associated with extreme heat. It's also a good idea to monitor the status of your flight. All that said, so far, experts have not seen the major meltdowns travelers experienced a couple of years ago, so hopefully that continues. Well, nearly 40 people across 20 states have gotten sick from so-called mushroom-infused microdosing chocolate bars. The FDA is now recalling all Diamond Shrooms branded products. The edibles are billed as candy for the creative soul, a microdosing product. Even though the company has claimed the bars do not actually contain psychedelic substances, the FDA now says it found the products do contain toxic levels of a psychoactive chemical found in certain mushrooms. And some people who consume Diamond Shrooms products have fallen seriously ill, suffering from things like seizures and loss of consciousness. More than 20 people have gone to the hospital. Anyone who purchased Diamond Shrooms products in person or online can contact the company for a refund. Culture's biggest night, the BET Awards, honored Usher, saw Will Smith return, and featured a parade of performances. When Usher received the Lifetime Achievement Award, he joked, "Is it too early for me to get this?" Artists like Childish Gambino, Keke Palmer, and more set off the tribute to Usher. And that was on top of him winning Best Male R&B Pop Artist for the 5th time. SZA won Best Female R&B Pop Artist for the 2nd year in a row, making her the first since Beyoncé to win back-to-back awards in that category. And speaking of Beyoncé, she won the Viewer's Choice Award for the record-extending 5th time. Killer Mike's Michael won Album of the Year. Standout performances came from artists like Lauryn Hill, Megan Thee Stallion, and Will Smith. Smith made a rare live appearance to perform his newly released single, You Can Make It. It actually marks his first major awards ceremony since he slapped Chris Rock during the Oscars back in 2022. It's official now. Disney and Pixar's movie Inside Out 2 is the first film of 2024 to hit $1 billion at the global box office. Overall, it's one of 11 animated films to join the billion-dollar club, but it got there faster than any other animated release before it. And while that sequel gained #1 at the box office again over this weekend, a prequel came in 2nd place, also doing better than expected. The thriller A Quiet Place Day One brought in an estimated $53 million for its debut weekend in North America. Well, that's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. One easy way that I found to make sure my kiddo is getting the nutrition he needs is with Hiya's children's vitamins. In fact, even before they became a sponsor, their best-selling children's vitamins are the exact vitamins that I've been giving him already. Why? Well, while most children's vitamins seem basically like candy in disguise, I chose Hiya because they have 0 sugar and 0 gummy junk, and are instead a pediatrician-approved chewable vitamin that my son seriously looks forward to having every morning. Honestly, if he's in a bad mood in the morning, saying it's time for his Hiya vitamin always makes him smile and get really excited. And I love knowing that Hiya fills in the most common gaps in modern children's diets to provide that full-body nourishment my boy needs. It's non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, and more. I also recommend checking out the Kids Probiotic. My son takes that one too and loves it. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to Hiya, Hiya, health, HEALTH.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full-body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Okay, now back to Money Monday. There's finally some welcome news for Americans worried about the rising costs of living. Inflation appears to be slowing down. The Commerce Department released a report that's considered a key economic measure used by the Federal Reserve. The Personal Consumption Expenditure Index, or PCE index, stayed basically unchanged in May compared to April. It rose 2.6% from a year earlier, compared to 2.7% from April to April. And that's actually way down from inflation's peak in 2022, when the PCE index climbed higher than 7%. And that means consumers aren't paying a ton more for goods and services overall. Inflation still runs higher than the Fed's 2% goal, but the new report gives economists hope that the Federal Reserve will lower interest rates in September. To be continued. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.